Here's how to make this glowing eye effect from Avatar: The Last Airbender, or to do any kind of eye replacement, whether it's glitches or swapping out what the eye looks like. Say what you will about the live action Avatar show,
My father!
but the Avatar State eyes are really cool, and what I like about them is that they're not just one solid glow color. The irises themselves are a bit brighter, and with Kyoshi, we even see her eyes moving. And this is really similar to an effect I was doing for my sci-fi project, Friends of Sophia. So I thought I'd do a little tutorial. First, I filmed myself at a high frame rate, 120 frames per second, so that I could slow it down later. And so I brought that into Premiere and retimed it. And I'm going to just export this as a PNG image sequence so that when I'm in After Effects, I'm working with normal 23:9:8 footage, even though it is slowed down. So this is that clip. And to start with, we are going to track this footage. Mocha AE comes with After Effects, but Mocha Pro is a paid version. I have a 15% discount in the description below. I think it's worth it. I use Mocha Pro for everything. The tracking functionality that I'm about to show you can completely do with Mocha AE, but Mocha Pro also has some other masking and mesh tracking features that can be helpful as well. But for this, because the eye isn't going to be blinking, we can just track the eye itself. And Mocha works as a planar tracker, so it's tracking this whole area instead of a singular point, which is going to be helpful, especially for this footage that's a little grainy because of the ISO. So let's label these and then track forward. So now that that's tracked, save it and close. Then we're going to create two null objects, right eye and left eye. Then in our Mocha Pro effect panel down here in tracking data, create tracking data. Let's choose right eye, change it to transform, and put it on the right eye null. Export. Do this again, left eye. Change it to the left eye null, hit export. And now we have these two null objects on those eyes. So first we want to make a mask for the entire eye. Let's call this one right eye, duplicate left eye. For the right eye, we are going to create a mask around here. Parent this to the right eye null. And for the left eye, we're going to do the same process. Parent this to the left eye. And these are going to be our main sort of masks. It looks like it's a little choppy, so let's just delete some of these points and stretch this out just to get a smoother mask here. Something like that. This one can go a little lower here. And we're going to use these as an alpha matte. So let's duplicate our clip, add a lumetri color, and let's just increase the exposure a little bit and go into curves. Just kind of bring it up. Set this to our eye matte here. We may even take blacks and bring those shadows up a bit. Something more like that. Let's also add a tint effect. Leave the white white, but make the black kind of this blue color. Something like that. Here we can also feather this. And then let's call this right eye bright. Duplicate it, call it left eye bright, and set the left eye there. And this feather was 13, so let's make this one match as well. So this is going to get us our basic glowing eye effect. But now, let's look at this reference. We can see that the pupils and the irises are also kind of bright, so let's isolate those. So to start with, hit Q until you get the circle mask up here. Make sure you don't have any layers selected so you can see the star icon and create a circle. Hit Shift to make it a perfect circle. Move your anchor point to the center. And let's actually turn the opacity down a little bit. And let's line this up with our pupil, our iris. So let's call this left iris. And then let's also duplicate it and call this left pupil. And scale this one down as well. Parent these to your left eye null. And then let's take this mask. Let's duplicate it and parent this to this new mask here because we're going to turn this feather down to something like 5. So something like that is working. Duplicate them. Let's call this right iris, right pupil, make them parented to the right eye, move them over to the right eye, duplicate your right eye mask here and make sure that they are set to that alpha, change that feather to something like a 5. If we change these to a white, let's add like a little bit of a fast blur. Say 2 to each of them. Let's take these pupils and set them to 100%. Now we have these avatar eyes with some kind of variation here in the iris and the pupil, and we're getting some of the detail of those eyes themselves. Now we want to adjust it so that it has a sort of like blue color in there as well. Take all of these layers, let's pre-compose them. So if we make a duplicate, set it to screen, curves, let's bring our blue way up. Our green and our red down. Blur that a little. Let's add a lumetri color to this other one. Here in the shadows, change it to a blue. And the midtones as well. Now I'm going to add a film glow effect from Boris Effects, which is going to accentuate that glow right there. Also going to add a grade. Let's go BCC film stocks here. Click FX editor. Pop-up's going to appear. And then I'm going to choose a film stock that I like. Let's do this Kodachrome 64, hit apply. I'm going to duplicate this film glow Make a mask around the eyes. Feather it a ton. Bring the threshold up to 50 or something. Just to punch up those eyes a little bit more. That's the basic effect to create these eyes. But now, and the reason that I have two clips is what happens when your eyes are moving. This is where the effect looks really cool and why seeing the irises and the pupils also made a lot of sense. So we're going to follow the same process. So let's go into Mocha Pro for our tracking, or Mocha AE if you'd like. So we are going to track the eyes, but because the pupils are moving, there's parts we don't want to actually track the inside of the eye. So let's make our tracker around the eye, including that eyebrow here. We'll call this right eye. And then if you hold down this X spline and do this X plus, you can draw within the same shape. And every time you do that, it'll exclude the interior part. So right now it's only tracking this outer circle and not the inner circle. So let's do this to create a left eye track. Add a plus here. And then let's track forward. There we go, and this track looks like it worked pretty well. There's not some weird little bounces as the eyes move. So let's close save and then close out of that. Sometimes you'll get a spinning wheel as Mocha, saves all that information. Let's create our two nulls, our right eye and our left eye. And then in tracking data, create track data, layer 2, which I forgot to label as the left eye, transform, left eye, apply. Same thing with the right eye, apply to the right eye, apply. So now we have these nulls tracked to the eye. So first let's create our mats of the eyes. So create a new solid. One is called right eye, one is called left eye. And the reason we're doing separate tracks for each eye is because if you were to track just this whole brow section, it's not super accurate to each individual eye. So we want to track each eye on its own. So let's just bring the opacity down so we can see this a little better and just adjust as needed. So let's see, by the end of it, you can see our shape doesn't stay the same. So to do that, hit M, keyframe the mask shape, go to the end, and then let's adjust the masks as needed, just because our perspective on the eye has adjusted a little bit as the head turned in this shot. So now let's create our irises again. Instead of using this shape layer, we're going to pre-compose this, and I'll show you why, because we're going to use another effect. Pre-compose this and call this iris, and then we'll call this one right iris, duplicate it, left iris, and then parent them to the corresponding null. And we are also going to need to hand animate the position to move along with the pupils. So let's find where the pupil starts to move here. Hit Shift Alt P to create a position keyframe. Here's where the move stops. So we're gonna move this, move this. And the last thing we're going to do, so once, the eyes are over here, it's kind of not really a flat circle the way that they are sort of in the front. So there's this other effect called optics compensation. So let's turn off the blur on this left iris, and let's isolate it with the clip here. If we move this around, we're going to see it's kind of like revolving it sort of like around a lens. And this is an effect that will help you with like wide angle footage. But when you apply it to a layer like this, you can add some curvature and dimension. And I found that this works really well on eyes. This is going to give us just a little more dimension to this shape, and it's pretty subtle. And when everything's bright and glowing, you might not notice it as much. But when you have an effect that is like these eye glitches, it makes a pretty big difference. To give this look kind of like the Avatar Spirit World look from the Netflix show, I added some chromatic aberration and a prism effect using Boris effects. I also used the roto brush and quickly cut myself out and added some elements to the background, including a bunch of particles moving that I created in Blender, fractal noise, particle playground, and particle illusion from Boris effects, and used some stock fire footage and composited it all together to kind of give it this Avatar state sort of effect.